say in one's own government, and freedom to rise according to merit rather than to rank by accident or by birth. Nowhere was the new science of pedagogy more enthusiastically developed than it was in Germany. J.B. Bacewell, J.H. Camp, and C.G. Salzman, other philosophers who, on essential points, differed from Rousseau. He believed that punishment and rewards were essential into a child's education. Of course, Rousseau would have frowned upon this, but an important difference with Rousseau was the rejection of education outside of society. Philosophers strove to improve the lower class, the common people. They wanted to educate not only the children, the elite, but the lower class. They observed that schools, both in cities, both in the countryside, were low. They had incompetent teachers and they were old-fashioned. By the middle of the 18th century, there was still a broad gap between the cultural elite and the common people. Therefore, newly established societies aiming at bringing the Enlightenment came to the common people. In the end, the Enlightenment had the greatest impact through pedagogy and education. The world of children today was to a large extent created in the age of the Enlightenment, and several elements of today's standard school curriculum, including physical education, manual training, and school cardings, can be traced to the advice given to Rousseau. So I tell you one thing to end. What makes us different from the animals? And that's the ability for us to think intellectually. And that's what makes us, as individuals, move forward.
Thank you, Duaga. If the Enlightenment is an age of intellectual achievement, then Broward College is certainly enlightened. Now, we've heard extensive information on the rise of the colonial woman, theories for witchcraft in America, and the background of America's education. Our next speaker, Hope Wiersma, a bright future scholar and veterinary medicine major, will provide insight into the religious movements of America. Hope proposes a question relevant today. Is God's power absolute and arbitrary, with movements that revolutionize religious freedom in America? Hope Wiersma.
Good evening, everybody. The more you know about the past, the better prepared you will be for the future. A quote said by President Theodore Roosevelt. See, history is not a timeline, only remembering specific dates and names, but it is a story waiting to be unfolded, like putting pieces together to solve a puzzle. The connection between those pieces holds a key into the past as it opens a door into the future. Learning American history in Dr. Glenhill's class made me desire to understand our nation's story. The movements that the topics that I found intriguing are the movements that revolutionized religious freedom in America. The movements are the Enlightenment, Pietism, and the Great Awakening. All of these movements contributed to the spread of different forms of religion, their tolerance, and subsequent acceptance. Religious diversity was condemned in Western Europe by leaders of the church and state. This led many religious groups to be driven out of their native country and began migrating throughout the American colonies during the 18th century. Groups consisted of Catholics, Puritans, English Protestants, Pilgrims, and others striving to receive an establishment within the colonies. The migration allowed colonies to become populous and diverse in religion. The Age of Enlightenment was a time period of the scientific revolution that challenged educated people through science and logic in the beginning of the 18th century. It made people to change their views on their faith, especially Christianity. During that time, Christianity was the major religion that was practiced discoveries by astronomer Nicholas Copernicus and scientist Isaac Newton explain the movements of the Earth and the planets and how they revolve around the sun. This scientific knowledge undermined Christian theology and the understanding of the world's creation. John Locke, an English philosopher, made the Enlightenment to spread like wildfire throughout the American colonies. His famous works include an essay concerning human understanding and the two treaties of government, stating that a person's mind could be created through education, rational thought, and purposeful actions, depending on the beliefs and the environment on that particular individual. If these elements mentioned by Locke could influence a person's behavior, could it mean that man could self-govern himself without the intervention of a supreme being? People before this time saw God as an angry Calvinist God, one that was feared and obeyed without question, with absolute and arbitrary power. Followers believed that if they did not follow the commandments as mandated or the Bible accordingly, that God would punish or send them to hell. During the Enlightenment, people questioned God as a supreme being and started to demystify religion. But as they became more knowledgeable about the world and the behaviors that made up individuality, they became progressively less fearful of God's wrath. Concerns about religious tolerance and the relationship between church and state encouraged new changing concepts into the minds of Americans. A reform movement imported from Germany began to take root in many Christian hearts throughout the colonies. This movement is known as Pietism, and it was a movement within churches aimed at the revitalization of the personal religious life of the members and the restoration of Christian unity. The Pietism movement occurred because people were overall dissatisfied with the established Lutheran and Reformed churches due to their increase into theological irrelevance and disagreements. One of the most important results of Pietism is that it emphasized personal decisions and stressed personal religious experiences. Churchgoers that were unsatisfied of their minister's teachings were encouraged to leave their church and find another minister. This was a paradigm shift in America's valuation of freedom of choice in religion. After many years of passive worshipers, the Great Awakening sparked a widespread spiritual passion, increasing conversions of different forms of religion and church membership. It created the changes in ministries and ministers across America due to the differences between conservative and radical thinking, also known as the Old Lights and the New Lights. Old Lights were people who downplayed emotions within the church, emphasized rationalism, and did not allow women to participate at churches. New Lights were people who acknowledged emotions within this church, believed in evangelism, and allowed women to participate in sermons. The Great Awakening was attacked by the Old Lights and the established religions because they believed in keeping religion traditional, as it has always been. The New Lights, on the other hand, wanted freedom from traditional religious restraints. This clash caused people to take a stand for their beliefs. The Revolutionary War contributed greatly towards complete religious freedom through the influence of John Locke's work and the Founding Fathers' philosophy. Later, the Declaration of Rights, written on June 12, 1776, paved a way for freedom of religion and the separation between the church and the state by not instituting a national religion. It stated that all men are by nature equally free and independent, and that religion, or the duty which we owe to our Creator, and the manner of discharging it, can be directed only by reason and conviction, not by force or violence. These ideas were derived to create the Declaration of Independence, which was made 3 weeks later, proving that the American people had a freedom of religion and that religious tolerance was a mainstay in American culture. Is God's power absolute and arbitrary? You decide.
Thank you, Hope, for such an interesting presentation. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get started with our question and answer session. So I will invite the speakers to come up on stage, please, and the audience to prepare their questions. Go ahead, ladies. Thank you very much for all your presentations. They were really enlightening. At this time, I would like to start with the first question, and this will be for Fida Fitiani. Do you think that women are still in a revolution nowadays?
I'd say absolutely, because till this day we struggle with rights such as equal pay, and it is a fight. There are double standards. It is a fight that we continue to battle, to fight for our rights and to make sure that we become equal to that of a man.
Okay. At this time, anyone with a question? Okay, perfect.
How has learning all of this impacted your own lives today?
First and foremost, I think we're much better speakers, and that's a great skill to develop.
Thank you, Anna. Anybody else?
To add on to her question, I'd say that because we're studying the 18th century, so that was 200 years ago, so to be able to see everything that the citizens of the United States have been able to accomplish, it's overwhelming in a way. To see that if it wasn't for their movements to stand up, to be confident within themselves that this is us, we would not be on the stage right now. So it is empowering to study about this.
Any other questions?
My name is Walda. The question is for Anna and Johanna. Were other approaches considered in explaining the witchcraft hysteria?
Yes, there was another interesting approach, which was the geographical approach. Historians had a map where they marked places where hysteria occurred, and they noticed that the most, in a great scale, 12 people firstly occurred in Salem village.
And then it started to spread, and what happened is when they look at the map, they saw
We have another question here.
I have a question for Ho. I've always heard that preaching style in America is very unique. Does this have any connections to do with what you said about patriotism and the Great Awakening? I've always heard the preaching style in America is very unique. Does this have any connections with what you said about patriotism and the Great Awakening?
Actually, yes. Pietism now, the goal of pietism is that it emphasizes personal decisions, and for that reason alone, people, churches nowadays, what ends up happening is that people are able to choose their own agents because of pietism, and really within themselves spark a widespread passion of being closer to the creator of God. So that's the impact that people now live in there due to the movements of pietism and
Any other questions?
Thanks for a great discussion, Henry Mack, Associate Dean for Humanities. Throughout the presentations, there was an emphasis on fundamental rights, the right of the person, the right of the woman, the right of the person to be empowered. A lot of the Enlightened Fathers relied heavily on the concept of natural rights and natural goods. My question is how, if you agree with this, how have we gotten so far away from adopting the same sort of moral objectivism that we began this country with? For instance, nowadays many people think that morality is just a mere matter of opinion or just a religious bias, but that didn't seem true back then. And I'm just wondering your thoughts about the evolution of rights and morality throughout the decades.
I think as humans, despite whatever era, despite whatever century, we're essentially the same human. We have the same emotions. So when we're stripped from our natural right, we're going to try our best to adhere to having it back. So the emphasis on the right, it's not different than the emphasis that we put today. Maybe the movements that they accomplished in the 18th century were stronger. Maybe they were more impactful, but it's constantly happening. And it's within our nature to defend what we believe is right and our freedom.
One more question, the last one.
One question over here.
Thank you, Leda. Yeah, Monica, could you possibly pass them the mic, or does it reach or not?
No, it's probably.
Okay. Okay, this is a pretty quick question. I noticed how you mentioned that women were submissive in the past. How do you plan on combating it if you have a daughter in the future and for their future life or whatnot?
Could you repeat the question, please?
I'll repeat it for you. The submissiveness that was in the past for women history, how do you plan to change that for the future in your own household?
I think when society begins to accept people for who they are, then that's how it changes. I mean, within the early 20th century, the women were still adhered to, confined within just staying at home, taking care of the family, which there's nothing wrong with that. But there's nothing wrong with that. But you know, for them to become something more, to express what they're fully capable of, that really, just for society to relieve that pressure from them, and it really all depends on us. It really does. So what we've been able to accomplish over the years is from our bravery and our courage, and also from people accepting what we believe in.
Thank you, ladies. This ends our symposium. I'm going to go ahead and give the microphone to Dr. Sheila Jones. Thank you, Dr. Jones.
First, I must thank Dr. Caneo and his students for inviting me to offer a few words of acknowledgement for this fantastic event. Some of you know that my background is history. Before becoming district director of the Honors Institute, I taught history at our central campus for 6 years. My specialty is women's history, so I was especially excited to attend today's symposium and address all of you. My one quick question, though, is are there any men in your class? Oh, wow, okay. Couldn't resist asking. But what I always found most rewarding about studying and teaching history is also what some find frustrating. The idea that there are no easy answers to many questions about historical events. And one of my favorite quotes is from President Harry Truman. He once remarked, "If you will study history, you will find a most easy and simple answer to everything in which you're interested." What I like about this quote is that it can be an argument in defense of studying history, which I definitely appreciate and applaud. However, I completely disagree with Truman's point. If you will study history, you will not find an easy and simple answer to everything, and not to most things, and that is what is so exciting about it. Studying history is messy, it is complicated, and it leads to more questions than it answers, but it is tremendously worthwhile to our society. As citizens, it is our duty and our right and responsibility to investigate this country's past, the good as well as the bad, and learn from it. We strive to cultivate this aspect of civic engagement in our Honors Institute, and our honors students have proven this today. Ms. Seguera's opening remarks highlighted the significance of studying all aspects of the American Revolution and the radical change within it. Ms. Vidian's presentation about the enlightened colonial woman reminds us that much like today, it was not easy to be a woman in colonial America during the 1700s, and that we need to identify and encourage all of the intellectual warriors who live in our midst. Ms. Sobchitchin and Ms. Belishova's presentation proves that thinking about women, witchcraft, and science is still relevant, even when we think we know everything that there is to know about prescribed 18th century gender roles and the Salem witchcraft hysteria. Ms. Lori's argument illustrates that some of the discussions we have today about education, pedagogy, and critical thinking are not new, but have been debated for well over 2 centuries. And Ms. Marisma's presentation offers us new ways of thinking about religious freedom and tolerance that are as relevant to our time as they were to Americans during the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening. All of the great work that you heard and saw presented today is a testament to the excellent work of our honors students and faculty, and is an important reminder of the value of education that is grounded in the liberal arts and humanities. Finally, the key aspect of today's event is that it was entirely planned and carried out by the students, and what a great job. Every detail, from the programs, the stage, the presentations, our technical aspect, and all of it contributed to every student leaving their mark with each unique detail. And I'm a Jersey girl by marriage, so I definitely also appreciated the Bon Jovi song. So, with that said, I just want to give another round of applause to today's students and presenters, organizers, and to Dr. Cornell. Tolentino back to the podium to conclude.
First of all, we would like to thank our wonderful speakers and the audience. Thank you for your wonderful questions. To everyone who traveled to be here, including the Daughters of the American Revolution, to our distinguished family and guests, to Broward College students, thank you for being here, faculty and staff. To Phi Theta Kappa for their help, Broward College's Central Campus's Toastmasters chapter, and our sponsors, Student Life and G&H Partners. A very special thanks to Martha Corina Montiel, Lamar Lovelace, Valda Garcia-Barbon, Carlos Parra, Sherry O'Brien, Richard Blanco, Edwin Luna, Carlos Lopez, Jared White, Lisha Rodriguez, Juan Villarta, and our makeup artist, Amanda Crawford, and to Dr. Leah Graham for being here from Central Campus. And I would be remiss if I did not thank our team, the 2014 American History Honors Class, for coming together and giving the best of yourselves throughout this journey. Class, please join me on stage. wonderful leader, an unmeasurable inspiration, a mentor, a seeker of potential, an educator that has revolutionized our learning experience here at Broward College. You won't be too happy, but Dr. Edward Cornejo, please come join your class. He wasn't planning on this. And for our appreciation, we have a small token to give to Dr. Cornejo. You have no idea how he has really affected us, and we're very grateful. We have prepared this symposium for your delight, to enhance your experience of knowledge here at Broward College. We have heard today the different perspectives of the Enlightenment in America, and how it seeped into every facet of the colonial world, specifically gender, witchcraft, education, and religion. One of the takeaways from our great speakers is that it's hard to imagine democracy without the full participation of every member of society, especially women. All the aspects we'll focus on in today's presentation combine to form the America we love, the home of the free and the brave, and of endless opportunity. I hope today was a great experience for you all, and please remember the ladies.
Thank you.